Hey, I just noticed you called.
Yeah. I was just gonna check with you before you got on your.
I'm going to mute for just a little bit.
Okay.
Importance of understanding.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to get the group together, so we'll give everybody a couple more minutes, but I've heard from a couple people, they are busy campaigning for people, so they are out and about.
Plus, it's the cruise debate.
I'm sorry?
It's the cruise debate tonight.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
How do you hear that? Or listen, where can you listen to that at?
on YouTube.
Okay. Didn't know that. Okay. Let me check on a couple more people to see if anybody else is coming in.
Stole someone else's work to complete your book about crime. It's a cardinal sin for any author, stealing someone else's work. And we've got to call out this behavior anytime we see it, because Kamala has been getting away with this type of thing her entire career. If Kamala was back at Howard University, where she went to college, she'd be kicked out immediately. Take a look at this. This is right from the Howard University website. Quote, plagiarism, to take and pass off intentionally as one-own ideas and writings without attribution and without acknowledging the author. The penalties for doing that plagiarism at Kamala's alma mater. A more severe penalty, such as suspension from the university, may be imposed depending upon the nature and extent of the infraction. And that's how serious this is. And people of a certain age will probably remember that Joe Biden was forced to drop out of the presidential race for the first time when he ran for president back in 1988, after a much more honest media reported that Biden copied a speech from a little-known British member of parliament, almost word for word. Take a listen.
Why is it that Joe Biden is the first in his family ever to go to a university.
Who am I? The best kid in a thousand generations to be able to get to university.
Biden would drop out of the race not long after that and never run again. It took him 20 years until he ran again in 2008. He failed and became Obama's VP. And just like Joe Biden, when it comes to Kamala, it looks like plagiarism is a pattern. In an interview with Elle magazine not long ago, Kamala told a story about her parents at a civil rights march in Oakland back in the 1960s. Take a listen to how she described what happened.
And then my mother tell a funny story about how, like one day she did, and I was fussing, and you know, and so I'm fussing and fussing. It's much cuter when she would tell the story, but she'd say, so then she would look down at me and come, what do you want? What do you want? And I looked back up at her and I said, freedom.
Yeah, freedom. That's a sweet story. The problem is that's not Kamala's story. Just like her boss in 1988, she stole that. It turns out she stole that story from Martin Luther King. In an interview in 1965 with Playboy magazine, Dr. King told the exact same story when he said, quote, "I'll never forget the moment in Birmingham, Alabama, when a white policeman accosted a little girl, 7 or 8 years old, who was walking, and what do you want?" asked the officer, and the little girl looked at him straight in the eye and answered, freedom. This probably explains why Kamala doesn't do a lot of interviews. She's impressive on paper, I guess, but there's just not that much there. What Democrats also can't seem to figure out right now is why Donald Trump, this extremely wealthy man who wears a full suit everywhere he goes, unless he's golfing, is polling at 27% with black men and 40%.
Are we waiting for more people?
I think I'm gonna go ahead and start. We have another person that's joining us, but let me try one more person, just reminding them.
Yeah.
I know Robin said she just got home from work, so I think she's joining us. Okay, well, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, counting me, people that I've been sending emails to. Okay, good. Jennifer's coming on. And so I think Robin might be joining us, and we'll see if anybody else comes on. So the first few minutes, what I wanted to do was introduce everybody to each other, and then we'll start talking a little bit more about what that night on the 28th will be kind of looking like. So Erin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Did you say me?
Yes, Erin Green.
I'm Erin Green. I live in Kingwood, Texas. I used to teach. I taught for about 10 years. I've taught kinder, first, second, fourth, and fifth, and eighth grade writing. And I don't know. I started researching education probably about 10 years ago. And that's about it.
Well, Erin, didn't you run for school board too?
Oh yeah, I ran for school board in I guess 3 years ago or 2 years ago in Humble ISD.
Okay. So did you go to school in Texas, Erin?
Yes, I went to Texas Christian University to get my bachelor's degree, and then I got a graduate degree in St. Thomas in Houston.
Okay, what was your graduate degree in?
Administration, so I could become a principal.
Okay. And didn't you tell me you were reading was your area too?
Yeah, that was my specialization when I graduated with my bachelor's. It was a bachelor's in education with a reading endorsement and a kindergarten endorsement. So
okay. Monica, would you like to introduce yourself?
I am Monica Dean. I'm in the Cy-Fair district, and I got involved in 2021 when kids went online, and then I got involved with politics, helped the latest school board candidates in Cy-Fair to replace the corrupt ones and got them on, and not just me, but I helped with that. And let's see what else. I do not have an education background, but I'm very interested in education and helping out where I can.
Aren't you on one of the committees in Cy-Fair?
I did just I was on a community leadership committee. I was on that for 2 years, and then I just got on the SHAC committee. So looking forward to see what that's all about.
Okay, excellent. So Robin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, I really don't know what to say, except I don't really have a background in education. I do work at a school currently. I'm a school nurse. I graduated from HBU University many moons ago. I studied communism, and that's a lot to study in my spare time. And I got involved in Texas Truth Movement. I think it's been over a year, and have been on the board, and just interested in, making changes and fighting against all of this government intervention into our lives. So,
And you were a homeschool mom?
yeah, I homeschool my kids pretty much all the way through.
Okay. And you live in which school district?
Cy-Fair.
Okay. Meg, would you like to introduce yourself? Just tell us a little bit about, your background and.
Sure. I'm Meg Seff. I'm a former HISD candidate. I have 30 years of education. I have my master's degree in specific learning disabilities and gifted, and my specialty is reading and literature. I basically have worked with poverty kids. And when I got to Texas, I set up some volunteer literacy programs at Shern Elementary School. What else did you ask?
And so where did you spend a lot of your time early on? I forget which state you're from.
New York,
New York.
Jersey, and Vermont.
Okay.
Vermont, the longest. I was there for 25 years.
Okay.
And I moved to Texas to be near my family. I have 5 granddaughters running in ages from 8 to 11.
Wow. Okay. And Jennifer, would you like to share a little bit about yourself, your background? Maybe Jennifer stepped away. If you're speaking, Jennifer, you're still on mute. Are you there? Oh, she said she can't unmute. Let me see. Well, I don't have any thing besides asking you to unmute.
If you tap on the top, there should be a banner, and there's a little thing that says mute, and you just tap on that.
Yeah, and you should see 2 blue buttons, and it says unmute at the top of your square.
It has on my thing, you're a participant, Jennifer.
I'm wondering if she went out and then came back in, if that would help.
Okay. Yeah, so maybe she did that. So Jennifer, we suggest that if you try again. Everything looks good on this end over here. Okay, well, we wait for, well, I'll let Jennifer, I'll introduce myself. I think most of you might know, but I do live in the Cy-Fair School District, and I did also work in Cy-Fair years ago. My background is education, so I went to Texas A&M for curriculum and instruction, bachelor's degree with a specialization in reading, and then a master's degree from the University of Houston in administration and supervision. Let's see what else. And I have helped, I guess, people work towards getting on the school board and kind of watch the different school districts around our area. And I did teach and work in Houston ISD. That's where I got started. And then I moved out to the Regional Service Center and then to Cy-Fair. And I also worked in Tomball ISD as a substitute assistant principal when somebody was on maternity leave. And I also worked at the Lone Star College. So I guess I've been in this business for a long time and still have a huge interest. I haven't been on any of the committees at this from the school district side, not as a community volunteer. But I have, I guess, been interested in what's going on the last couple years on the state level to find out what's going on with these different bills they keep coming up with. And I guess in 2018, when I worked for Paul Betancourt for about 6 months, he's my senator in Senate District 7, and I got to hear and see kind of behind the scenes on that side of the aisle what was going on. And that was extremely interesting to me. And now I know a lot more than when I was trying to help him by just getting involved. So, and Jennifer, let me know, are you in yet? Can you hear? You still can't talk? I can hear, okay, but we can't hear you. So does anyone else have any ideas on how to help someone get in?
Is she using an iPad by any chance?
Are you on an iPad, Jennifer? Yes or no? She says she's on her laptop.
I can see her in the chat talking. I can unmute, says I'm a guest. I can hear on laptop, have done Zoom many times, never had this problem. Mine doesn't say I'm a guest. I see my name.
Yeah, she's listed as a participant when I
Oh.
looked up participants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it says Jen K.
Yeah,
on
Jennifer
screen.
Cracky. So what I don't see is her little, oh, there's her microphone. Let me see.
Yeah, it says it's off.
Yeah. I don't know how to unmute her.
It just showed that she's unmuted.
Okay, now she should be able to talk.
Are you talking, Jen?
Do you have your sounds is up high so we can hear you?
Says it's a browser setting.
Oh, I don't know anything about that.
But we'll let her keep working on it. And
That is so frustrating now.
I know Jennifer lives in the Tomball ISD, and she is running for Tomball, one of the positions as trustee. And she's a native Texan, and she moved from Austin to the Tomball area a few years back. And I know she was on the SHAC committee because she explained what it was, I guess back in 2021 or so when I met her, and helped encourage a lot of parents to start getting on those committees. But hopefully we'll get Jennifer to be able to speak. It shows you're unmuted now, Jennifer. I don't know. So anyway, what I wanted everyone to get to hear was kind of some of the discoveries that you might have made when you started looking at this House Bill 1605. Were y'all able to read over 1605? And you can unmute yourselves and just talk freely. And the reason I ask, because that's being familiar with what is in the bill. It's about 50 pages long. And I kind of looked through it and was looking for what were they expecting this curriculum to look like? And so a couple of the bullets I pulled out was that the open education resources were supposed to be of highest quality, aligned with the TEKS, the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. It has to be adopted by the SBOE. So that's why we're talking to Will on on the 28th, Monday the 28th, because he hasn't declared one way or the other what he's going to do. The bill said that it needed to be applicable subject and grade level. So it's a reading language arts curriculum, and it's from K through 5 is what they have out there right now. It's supposed to be suitable for the age of the students. It's supposed to be free from bias and factual error. And it needs to be in compliance with some law 28.0022. I don't know what that is, and I haven't looked that up. It needs to have a district curriculum, scope, and sequence to ensure sufficient time to teach and the pacing. So, and it needs to be protecting students from obscene or harmful content. And so those were the main points that I picked up when I read through the bill. I know it's 240 minutes a week that language arts is supposed to be taught, which includes reading, spelling, the grammar, language, writing component of the school day. So that's about 2 hours a day. Well, 240 a week. That's even less. Let's see what else. I think when we first heard about the bill, we were concerned about it because it was presented with, technology is written throughout it. And when they used this particular curriculum, it was this is how it was explained to me, that it was a pilot in some of the school districts. I don't know, I think Klein piloted it in our area, but Fort Worth piloted this particular curriculum, and it was out of California, and it was called Amplify. And I believe Lauren Jobs is the widow of Steve Jobs, with Macintosh and Apple, all that, and had a big part in her company producing this particular curriculum. And it came right at COVID when the school districts were frantic and searching for online curriculum. So those are some of the background. Does anyone else have anything to add to that might be familiar with some of this? So, so just so everybody kind of has this background. So then the curriculum, okay, so it was piloted during COVID. School districts, they rushed it to get to the different school districts. I think there were like 75 or more school districts that used it. And so then they have data on how successful it was. Well, apparently it wasn't very successful with the students. The children were not able to, they weren't growing with this particular curriculum. And they then modified the curriculum. And so it moved from being a California Amplify to the Texas was supposedly, does anyone know who Ed Scruggs is? Oh, yeah, that's Susan. Never mind. So, hi, Susan.
Hi.
So I'm doing a little bit overview of the 1605, and then I'll let you introduce yourself in just a few minutes, okay? And if Jennifer
Sure.
able to speak. So anyway, so the Amplify just kind of changed and molded or warped into something called Texas Amplify. It was supposed to be now Texas's, Texas bought it, and they were going to tweak it and make it theirs. And so then because people were making a big deal out of this Amplify, that it was a technology-based curriculum, that the kids would be online a lot, they decided they would revamp it. And I think they were trying to, I don't really know what they're trying to do, but they were trying to Texify it, I guess, and make the conservatives like it. And so they decided they would sprinkle some Bible stories inside of it. And I guess they thought that was going to make everybody happy. And that was going to clean out all the progressive wokeness in all the curriculum. And so anyway, so they did that. And then they presented it with a new name because they have to, that's how entities do things. They rebrand it and call it the Blue Bonnet curriculum. And that, we're not even sure if it's going to stay that, because I think that's a copyrighted name for something else. But anyway, right now that's what we've been calling it. So it's up for vote by the State Board of Education. And like I said, Will Hickman is coming to talk to us. He has a lot of information. I guess most of you are familiar that the State Board of Education, they're constantly fed probably more stuff than they really probably want to know. So they can be very knowledgeable about all these different aspects. So I know there's been different trainings and things that I've heard other state board members are going to. I'm not sure all what Will has jumped into, but so that's kind of the overview of this particular curriculum. And then our individual task is to look at it and then give some feedback on what you see are the strengths or weaknesses. Is it really going to teach kids how to read? I think they said like in third grade, the percentage of children that can actually read. Does anyone have the numbers, exact number, the percentage?
No, but it,
Isn't it like
I don't know if
30%?
it's true. They say that they can make, it's when I was in graduate school, apparently there was a study that said whoever can't read by third grade, that's what they use to make prisons, to build prisons, because they're going to be, I don't know if that's true or not, because there was some debate on whether that was true, but there's a lot of, like in the Black community, a lot of them could read over 50 years ago, but using this method that they have, it used to be only maybe 20 years ago, 50%. Now it's gotten bigger because they're not teaching them how to read. And I don't know if y'all saw, there was, I think maybe Alice Linehan put it out. Mike Morath was asking, he wants a Texas curriculum. That is what I think this is for. It's going to be online. All the districts are going to use it. And then what it's going to morph into, which I think it's always been their plan, it's going to be a federal, curriculum.
A national curriculum, yeah.
And then the UN. That is what their goal is to have all education under the UN control, which I don't know. I always think that, but when he said that, it was maybe a couple of summers ago. Do you remember that, Marianne? Were you? Because I remember him saying that he wanted a Texas curriculum.
So a statewide
Yeah,
curriculum,
statewide curriculum. And
so
I'm
not
not,
just a Texas-fied, we're gonna learn the pecan tree and all the good things. of
no,
Texas.
it's
a,
everyone
it's
is going to be doing the same
right.
thing.
Okay,
And
yes.
that is not, because not every district has the same needs. You go
Well,
by what your kids need, not by what they want the whole state.
well, I think it's also the values, because just like when I explained that overview, and let me stop to see, Jennifer, are you able to talk now?
Yes.
Okay,
Oh,
yay!
Yay.
So I'm going to take a couple minutes to let Jennifer introduce herself and Susan introduce herself, and then I'll answer Meg's question. She has her hand raised. Okay, so Jennifer, you want to take a couple minutes? I tried to do a little intro.
Yeah, I still apparently can't get the video to work. Can y'all see me?
No, it has a little camera on there.
Okay, this is so weird, but I am cooking dinner, but I'm listening to everything y'all are saying.
Okay.
I've heard everything. Yes, I am a school board candidate currently in Tomball ISD. I've been involved in education, down the road of learning and advocating since about 2018 when I was in Austin ISD, and just started seeing things in the schools that I was shocked were legal in a red state like Texas. So as soon as we moved to Tomball 4.5 years ago, I got on Shack and served on Shack for 2 years in Tomball.
And you went to University of Texas, right?
Yes, my degree is in finance, and I graduated from University of Texas.
Okay. And you have 2 children, right?
Yes, I have one child. My older child is at Tomball High School. My younger child, I'm homeschooling.
Okay. And Susan, can you introduce us? Tell us a little bit about your background. Okay, you have to unmute because I can't hear you.
Here we go again.
Okay. We haven't seen that little button come off yet. There you
Okay,
go.
sorry about that. It just wouldn't do. I was just at a school board meeting, and so I rushed out to my car and I found a Wi-Fi in front of Starbucks. So I'm
Okay.
sitting in front of Starbucks.
Thank you.
Sorry about that I missed it. But I have a business background, and I did a lot of training in the business world, but it's nothing like education. It's so different, and it's very complicated. They've made it very complicated, I'm sure, for a reason. So anyway, I was in my background is, basic corporation for over 20 years. And then entrepreneurship. I had 2 businesses for almost 20 years. So I'm trying to learn desperately all of this curriculum and levels and things like that. But I've been calling on or speaking to the school board where I was tonight speaking for over 3 years, and trying to get them to get on track with the kids and the safety in the school, and to be financially responsible, and set up policies for dress codes for teachers, and set up policies for gender transitioning books, and get the pervasively vulgar books out of the schools. And we have an election coming up on November 5th, where we have 4 new candidates, and we're hoping and praying that they are elected and come in and help the other 3 conservatives turn things around. So that's kind of
Which
my
district?
forte there.
Tell us your district again. You're in Conroe?
Conroe ISD.
Okay.
Yeah. 74,000 kids.
Very good. So Meg, did you have a question?
I had a statement.
Okay.
Because I've worked with poverty kids for over 30 years, the problem is in Texas, from what I've noticed, in teaching reading, they need to have children go to pre-kindergarten and develop language. Our kids coming out of poverty have a working knowledge of about 1,500 vocabulary words. Kids coming in from middle class and intact families have a minimum of 15,000 vocabulary words. So when they hit kindergarten, they're already starting with a reading disability. Because if you don't have language, you're not going to read. And they refuse to look at their pre-K programs. And that's where we need to center. We need to have a speech and language pathologist as part of the staff of all the pre-K programs. They can add 100 more pre-K programs, but if they're not working on language, these kids are never going to read. And until we start dealing with the main problems and changing, our reading skills are going to stay the same.
So we have pre-K programs. We have 3-year-olds going to school.
Yeah, but pre-K programs and pre-K programs developing language are two different things.
So, well, as far as I know, that was their program, was because they're, anybody who's ESL automatically got free pre-K, or if they were from poverty. And that's been going on for pretty much my whole career.
It's not happening.
So, like, what happened to them? Because they were there.
They're going, a lot of them are going there. There is not a good child find, so we're not finding the 3 to 5-year-old kids. And they do not have language pathologists as part of their program working on developing language.
Okay, yeah, there is a shortage of language pathologists. I know that's been a problem for a long time. But I do know, like, a lot of even children that aren't in poverty, if they have speech deficits, they get free special ed, starting at 3 years old too. But that's interesting. So y'all have all these speech pathologists up there?
No.
No.
I've been speaking to the board for over a year about this.
No. Like, it is like in other states, they have abundance of speech pathologists?
Yes.
Huh. I know there has always been a shortage, and nobody wants to do it. So.
Well, our new superintendent, in his wisdom, has fired all the speech and language pathologists and most of the speech teachers, the SPED teachers, because he thinks they're at the bottom of the barrel and they don't really count as teachers.
Wow.
And he said this at a school board meeting.
Wow. Well.
What district is this? Is this Houston?
Yes.
Okay.
Wow. That's interesting. But nothing surprises me. So, as you guys were looking through the various curriculum, did anyone have something that they noticed that they wanted to kind of share? And if there's any questions that people have, like where to find stuff and what to look at, because it's massive. Once you start looking at things, I'll start for a few minutes, and then if someone would like to join in, one of the pages I sent you guys on an email was this colored, different green, blue, yellow. It has the different units for kinder, first, second, all the way to 5th grade. And one of the things that I was kind of looking for, that I was interested in, was which ones had to do with the Bible. And that seemed to be when I watched the state board a meeting, I guess, I don't even know when that was, a few weeks ago in the summer. Was it summer? Maybe August, I don't know. So I was looking at these different units, and if you start at kindergarten and you go to 1st grade, 2nd grade, what stood out to me, being a former kindergarten, first, second grade, third grade teacher was, and this has been many years ago, but what stood out to me was they're doing these read alouds to the kids. And apparently, people have complained that in the past that the curriculum was not rigorous enough. So they had, they said the teachers are doing too easy of work with the kids. And so they decided to make this more rigorous. But in the process of making it more rigorous, it's like so over their head. I don't even know who they're aiming for, but they, when I would look at the TEKS, when I started back in 82, we didn't even have TEKS. We had objectives, but they were Houston ISD objectives because that's where I worked. And they had to have curriculum guide books. So I had a file cabinet full of little booklets of various health, spelling, and all these different books that looked like they were district made, like they weren't from a publishing company. These were like teacher made materials that we were all using. And then eventually, as the years passed, I can't even remember when the TEKS came around, but they came around, and all of us would use them to write our lessons with. But when I look at the TEKS today, from when I looked at them back in the, say, 90s and 2000s, you can see embedded in the TEKS the social justice, the DEI, the very leftist slant of what we're going to study. So I encourage you, if you haven't looked at just what the TEKS are, you can go to the TEA website. You can pull up K through 5. It's maybe 10 or 15 pages of them. They're not that long, and they repeat themselves. So what starts out in kindergarten, you'll see some similar things in first and second grade, especially the lower grades. But did anyone else get to look at the TEKS and have an assessment of those for themselves? Erin, were you able to look at them?
I was able to look at some of the reading. I looked at some of the flip books and this is just my personal opinion. I think they are trying to teach them way too many sounds all at once. And they need to start out with the long vowel sounds and just get them used to that, and then add the short vowel sounds. And my question is, when are they supposed to read on their own? Because in order to read, you have to instruct them, but it just seemed like, are all they going to do is read as a class? Because I don't see how that's going to teach them how to read.
And he may have some of these answers, but it looked like they didn't get a little reader till maybe 6 weeks, or it's a few months before they actually get a little reader to use.
I think that's a long time. I think you can start, with kindergartners. Some kindergartners are ready to read. So
what my question originally to you was about the TEKS. So did you?
Oh, I didn't know. If I've read that, no, I haven't read them.
Okay.
I thought you were talking about the curriculum. I'm in and out because I'm trying to make something. I'm making coffee. So
Sorry, sorry. So I was just commenting that when you actually, like teachers would tell me, I remember in 2021, we were having these meetings and teachers would walk up to tell me about their problems and tell us about the SEL and DEI and what was in the curriculum. And they'd say, it's in the TEKS. I'm like, how could it be in the TEKS? How could this all be in the TEKS? And then, so I'm sitting down studying them and reading the TEKS that I'm mostly familiar with, which would have been the early grades. And I'm going, oh my gosh, when did they get this bad? And it's very evident. I mean, so evident to me what they're teaching. So it's in the TEKS. So whatever curriculum they're going to use, until they fix the teaks, we got some big problems here. So whenever they say it's 100% aligned with the teaks, that to me is like a red flag because there's a lot of issues with the teaks. And in 2022, they, was it 2022 or 2023? Anyway, do y'all remember when the social studies teaks came up and they were supposed to, and there was a bunch of controversy and they put it off to 2025? So it's coming up again that they have to address the social studies teaks, which seems to create a huge culture war, because what's going to be, and I can definitely understand it because you see how slanted to the left it already is. So just knowing that starting out, your kind of skeleton, your objectives are already slanted to a progressive left, in my opinion, that I can see myself. So I know some of you looked at some different grade levels. Did anyone want to share kind of what they saw in any of the grade levels?
So now are you talking about actually looking at the
Yeah,
curriculum?
so
or-
now we're looking at the blue bonnet. Yeah, that any, like, what component did you kind of look at, and any comments that you might have had? They have like the teacher guide, they have a student workbook type activity book, they have flip books, they have little readers. It's massive, guys. So I'm not, I have this, I think I've showed some of y'all my, here, I'll pick it up. I got this big notebook full of tabs and everything that, I come in my office and sit down and try to read pages of it. And I just picked one grade level to kind of study. But one of the things I would just encourage you to do, if you can get to a grade level, all of the grade levels have, like I said, stories, they have units. And when you open up the unit, they have like a letter to parents that you can read over. And it's kind of a basic letter that tells parents kind of an overview of some of the words that they were going to be covering. And so one thing that they're doing for reading, which is what he wants to know, are they going to learn how to read doing this program? And they do a read aloud. And I was kind of looking at the stories going, who picked out these stories to read aloud? Because again, they are so, the word I keep thinking of is heavy. The topics are very serious, heavy, very divisive type topics. And they're also not of interest for a child. They're not going to have the background experience that we're supposed to share and build on. So that's my concern, is that they are doing a lot of globalist kind of topics. For example, in kindergarten, they're talking about kings and queens. Then later on in second grade, that's the one I'm studying, they'll say, well, remember when you studied about kings and queens? Well, we're going to talk about the difference between a king and a president. And so they're trying to, build on some of these concepts. My concern is that they don't have the kids, the children, and I'm thinking about the children I worked with in Houston ISD and in Cy-Fair and in Tomball. When I was working with children very closely, the vocabulary, they don't have this vocabulary. Monica, her and I were looking at kindergarten today. Monica, you want to talk about a little bit of anything you saw?
Let's see. So I just kind of got lost in all of it, but came across one called It's a Realized Reader. And it, on one of them, or I'm sorry, one of these was called Shared Read. So, and it was all about MLK Jr. And just, it talks about, like you said, the vocabulary words to me were just a little, they were age inappropriate. A lot of stuff about, like, let's see, one of them was marching, country. It talked about people sitting at different tables and eating, and let's see, just concepts that I don't think are appropriate to be discussed. I'm not even sure how they were going to be discussed. It says, can't read it on my phone, but I'm looking at some of the words here. Oh yeah, like I said, laws, speech, country, march. Those were some of the words that they were going to have to interact with other students. And then there was one, a realized reader. They were one of the, the teacher could choose from 5 books. One of them was, the main one was called Foxes. So once they got through with that, it told the teacher, when you get done with that one, you can choose from any of these other ones. So one of them that caught my eye was Bugs for Lunch. So I decided to look that up and just see what it was about. And it said, it was a concept of bug eating, humans. And the mom was giving a review saying, I had to explain to my child that there are people that eat bugs, but they would be cooking them. And it just went on. You're like, this just didn't sound like an appropriate book for a kindergarten child. And then it also said in that same, it said the teacher's role and collaboration. It said an important part of book club is students' ability to share ideas and listen to classmates, model some strategies for responding to each other respectfully, social and emotional learning. It mentions that, and then how the kids need to speak to the other kids, but using those key concepts of social and emotional learning. So those were the 2 that I came across. I haven't delved into any others in the kindergarten.
So look at the
section.
kindergarten, there's a reader in the Kings and
Can I say something about that?
go ahead.
So the sentence above, the teacher's role, where you're talking about, Monica, I think I sent it to you, but the teacher's role, the very last sentence about this book club. But you will not lead the discussion in a traditional classroom manner is straight out communism under Paulo Freire's pedagogy of the oppressed. So I can find the chapter where he says all this stuff, but the teacher's not to lead or these discussions. The student is going to take on, they're going to teach the student to take on that role more of the teacher, because it's a social construct, just like gender is a social construct. So that right there is a straight up sentence out of that book.
Yeah,
on how that
I didn't
thinking-
even catch that. That's a good
Well, and
catch.
don't they, it's like you're trying to reach consensus, and that's part of the dialectic or whatever. The kids are coming up with their own solutions or whatever. Is that, I don't know.
The dialectic is emerging like a Venn diagram. But they're training these kids to take on the role. I'm not going to explain it very well because I'm really kind of tired today. It was a long last 2 days. And I can explain it better later when my mind isn't so tired, but they don't want the teacher's influence in that way that traditionally a teacher would maybe lead the discussion and ideas would be said and that kind of stuff. They want those kids to to be more important than the teacher.
Yeah, and
Uh,
it does say that, I sent her a screenshot of what I had found in part of that. That's where and it does say that it says, since book club is a time for students to enjoy reading in an informal setting, the teacher's role should be as a reader, an observer, and an occasional facilitator. You may help to spur conversations or help students summarize and expand upon their own ideas about the book, but you will not lead the discussion in a traditional classroom manner.
That's right.
And then that's when it starts talking about, the social and emotional learning strategies, how to model those.
Right. So
Um,
this is out and out brainwashing. That's what that is. That's just out and out brainwashing. And we're not privy to maybe some of those questions that a teacher would ask, or how they're going to lead these children to think, or the story that's going to be behind it. So anyways, that's my 2 cents, y'all.
Thank you. Meg, were you able to look at any of the units?
Briefly, the problem that I'm having is that our superintendent is having teachers teach reading his way or no way. I can't imagine him doing any of these things. Everything is done with worksheets. There are no books. The children are not allowed to read novels. He got rid of all the libraries. I don't know what he did with the books. And they do 4 minutes on a worksheet. Then they get tested. If they didn't pass the test, they go to a detention room, and the rest of the class moves on. That's his idea of teaching reading. And it just goes against everything that any of us have ever been doing with children. And I look at this and I said, this guy is never in a million years going to do this.
Well, it's interesting because he's in that position because of Mike Morath, who TEA wrote all this. So, they want them to use it, and they're bribing the school districts by telling them they will give an extra, was it $20, $40, $60? They keep increasing it because if they do print it and don't have them on devices all day, it's going to be costly to print all this. And it's like worksheets, like, but it's just,
Well, our special ed kids are floundering. They'll never be able to survive with this.
I
There's
can
no
imagine.
scope and sequence. There's no rhyme or reason for the direction it's taking. The kids can't understand the concept of what's going on. And it just doesn't work.
Well, I agree that I don't think it's the children that I taught and worked with, when Monica, we were looking at kindergarten, just earlier this afternoon, we were walking through some of the lesson. I think it was, unit 7. Anyway, it just was kind of mind boggling because it was about the Good Samaritan. I think that one is, serving our neighbors. So they bring in the story of the Good Samaritan. And the vocabulary, again, is so advanced. When you're up in front of the room reading aloud a book and you have children, I would not expect, I taught at the college in Lone Star College in Tomball and University Park. The 18-year-olds would have trouble following what I was talking about. If they have no interest in this particular topic, which, most of these topics, I'm kind of like surprised that they even have them in these books, for these age groups. That's just nothing they're familiar with, or that they're interested in. So I'm just kind of curious on how other people are looking at this and what they're seeing. But, we do know that each of the different units, again, have some type of Bible story. And one of the things that I noticed when I talked to Aaron the other night was, the reader that we were looking at, different readers, And the story that is in kindergarten that has the little two children, they're 10 years old, they meet at summer camp, and I guess then the one child flies back to Great Britain or moves to Great Britain. And so then his little friend, the girl, so the boy moves to Great Britain. Her and her mom fly over to visit the boy. And so then the story takes place in the children's bedroom, the boy's bedroom, where the girl and her mother sleep in the bedroom. It's just kind of like opens up all these doors, and just seems like it's just an odd story. And then I looked up a second grade reader, and in the second grade reader, they're again in second grade, we're supposed to be studying about Texas and their community, their town, and it's about Mexico's Independence Day. And I'm thinking, where's America's Independence Day? Why are we, we are not putting America first at all in this curriculum, or Texas. And so I was kind of like just perplexed on, they're going all through why Mexico is celebrating on September 16th their independence, and all the vocabulary that goes with that. So I'm just kind of like, okay, so they start with kings and queens. They're talking about Great Britain in kindergarten. Then they go in second grade, they're doing a lot on Mexico. I'm just kind of confused on why people are promoting this particular curriculum. Anyone else have a comment on that? One other thing that I was just going to mention, because it's already 8 o'clock, but if you have a chance, so I encourage you to look at the teacher guide, get familiar with some of the lessons that might be covered in a certain grade level. I did, again, because I am a Christian, I am very curious about what this whole putting this Bible stuff in, trying to make everybody think it's gotten rid of all this wokeness. So when they introduce the teacher, I'm looking at the teacher guide for second grade. She's going to introduce this read aloud, and it's similar to each of the different grade levels. It's just the directions for the teacher. And it says, these are the words it says. So for 5 minutes, the teacher's supposed to explain to students that the story today comes from the Hebrew scriptures, which is also called the Old Testament of the Bible. Explain that the Bible is a collection of books that serve as the core books of the Jewish and Christian religions. For members of those religions, the Hebrew scripture represent the history of the Jewish people. So when I heard that, when I read through that, it made me really sad that the Word of God is being watered down to just a collection of books. And I just think this is just one more way of diminishing the significance, the holiness of the whole experience. Not that I think the Bible should be taught at all, but I don't like that they're minimizing the whole religious aspect. And I just wonder, like, how would they describe the Quran? How would they describe another holy book of another group, if they're making this sound so unimportant and just another group of books? Does anyone have a comment, or does that
I
just
mean, is the teacher going to be equipped to discuss? What if a kid has a question and says, hey, I'm Muslim, I read the Quran, what does it say? It's going to open up so much that shouldn't be discussed in school, and that's a parent's job. So
I did once try to incorporate all the different religions in literature. And what I did was we were talking about how each religion has a different way of talking about the beginning, how the world began. And I had quite a few different religions in the classroom. And one parent was Mormon and wrote in, and she was kind of upset that this was going to happen. So I invited her into the classroom to tell the kids how their religion dealt with it. And it was a really positive experience.
So what do you do for the parents who think it's very sacrilegious? So can you opt out of this? How do you, if it's part of the curriculum, how do you opt out of something like this? Those are my questions. I guess I can ask Will Hickman.
I'm about to run out of power, so I'm going to have to leave.
Okay, well, we're going to wrap up. Will does know we're meeting on Monday, the 28th, and we'll be meeting at the restaurant over off of 249, a Spring Creek Barbecue, and I'll remind everybody. And I'm gonna probably just ask some general questions for everybody who wants to, share about some different aspects of the curriculum. And if you have some questions for Will in particular, we'll probably let him start and kind of update us on what he knows is the latest about this particular curriculum, because like I said, they've been going to trainings and stuff. Does anyone have any particular questions or something they'd like to see on the agenda for that night?
I'm just wondering the direction that we should go and how I should prepare, because I don't feel like I feel more confused than I was before. Do you want us to read the TEKS, and do you want us to go ahead and you said to maybe look at the teacher's guide, but I don't feel prepared at all. And I don't know how much of an asset I will be. I have looked at the curriculum, not very intensely, but I'm confused on the direction, and I don't know if I'll be able to really add much to it.
So I know he's very interested in what teachers think of the curriculum, the strengths and weaknesses of it. So, that's one aspect. So to kind of simplify it, like I said, focusing on just one grade level kind of helps because it is massive to look at, and maybe even just look at one unit and one story and something that, just using that as a sample. So there's no set, when we came up with, we wanted to talk to Will, the idea was to explain to him, what we liked about it or didn't like about it, because he has to vote on it. And we're trying to give him some feedback on maybe what to look at or what to examine more closely. It is a massive project, Erin. I agree. It's big and it does take a lot of time. So
the only thing that I'm finding is that there's no real instruction on teaching a child to read, and it's a lot of what we've done in the past. And about the religion, I'm not shocked that they're doing this. When Russia became communistic, they did water down. What they had is KGB agents go in and pose as priests, and they would create, problems. And then the priests were KGB agents. So it's not shocking. Communism does not it is totally opposed to Christianity. It doesn't shock me that they're doing this. So that part of it I understand, and a lot of it looking at, I guess what I can look at is how we're too much into our emotions. And that's another thing that I've noticed about communism is they really get into the emotions, and our kids can emote all day long, but they can't read a book. So I don't know if that's the direction I should be taking, or
well, there's lots of pieces to the reading program. So, making sure you've looked through all those pieces, you know, before we say it doesn't have enough reading, you know, that's what was taking time, was looking through the little flip books, looking through the little readers for that particular grade level to say, you know, I don't think there's enough meat to it.
And are the
I think
flip
we're gonna
books,
finish pretty fast.
are the
Um,
flip books, are those the ones that, because I always think of a flip book, or maybe that's a big book. It's something that you read to the kids. Is that something the kids read, or?
The flip books look like it's something that they each would have, like it's
Oh,
only
and
a couple little letters, so I'm thinking they're gonna make little workbooks or something for them, printing them up and giving it to them.
all right, I'll look at it more closely.
And the other thing I haven't figured out is everything done in large group setting? Are
Yeah.
they gonna break into small groups? It doesn't. I can't figure.
That's, and reading is an individual thing. I mean, that's one thing that I noticed um when I was teaching, and I remember watching Charlotte Iserby, because I did not like when I taught reading, they were to read all at once and then you were to listen to them. And Charlotte Iserby said, that's so you don't know who doesn't know how to read. And I thought, yes, because I was taught you went one at a time. So do you know what I'm talking about when they, and I did not like, you know, they did a picture read. Well, picture reading is not reading. So, you know, I don't know where I was going with that, but it just seems like this is building up. They've been doing little by slow. They have been doing this to our curriculum, just totally dumbing it down. And I don't, and I think the goal is the teacher will just be, you'll just be there to make sure Johnny and Susie don't kill each other. They're going to be on the computer. And that is not education. That's not teaching someone.
Well, the little ones, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know, but I'll do what you said, and I'll do the best I can when I
You know,
go.
right, that's all we're gonna do too. I mean,
Okay, but I just feel
you know,
like I'm like,
he'll get to know who we are, and he'll get to know some of our thoughts, and maybe someone else has told him similar thoughts, or, you know, brought up certain things. I don't know, you know, teachers, are they meeting with him? You know, besides the like Region 4 or the Regional Service Center people, which have all been teachers, and I don't know, like, you know, the TEA staff should have all been teachers, but I don't even know who they hire anymore. So I probably shouldn't give them that much credit that they are hiring teachers to work at TEA. I don't know.
I think Mike Morath was a substitute teacher for maybe 6 months, and that's different than being a regular teacher. So he,
Right, or even being like an early childhood or early grades too is a lot different than even the upper grades, how you teach the reading, like in the small group settings and stuff. So anyway, thank you all for participating. Are there
I
any
have
other
one question.
question? Okay.
I do. Just so as far as the bill, you know, obviously if we read that over, is that something that he can, he's not really going to address the bill per se, right? Because he didn't write the bill. So is it more just we need to focus on the curriculum rather than?
Right,
I
well,
had that same question.
so yeah, so like I'm saying, in the bill, it kind of tells you what their expectations are of what this curriculum is supposed to be. So if you look at the curriculum and say, hey, you know, the bill said it's supposed to be highest quality, it's supposed to be it is aligned with the TEKS. I will give them credit. It is very much aligned with the TEKS. Is it free from bias? Not at all. It's very left slanting progressive bias. Um, Factual error, well, it depends on if you think Martin Luther King was a great guy or not. So it's, you know, there's a lot of issues. I mean, they make one-sided, you know, heroes out of some people, um, and they make villains out of other people. So anyway, so
Okay, so we could look at the bill and go, okay, well, I'm gonna go find this. Like, just like you listed, right?
yes, yes, and it's pretty much listed in there. It's not like I'm a genius about finding all this. It's right there in it. But is it free from bias? And then how do we show them it's not free from bias?
Does that have a page number where it is? Or I guess I could, free from bias, I'll just do Control F. And is it all listed there as to what the expectations are for the OER, Mary Ann?
Yeah, it's pretty
Okay.
much,
It's been a while since I've read the bill, so.
right, it had been a while for me too. So it's probably on page 4
Okay.
is, a lot of stuff. And like if the teacher doesn't use this approved material and a parent goes after the teacher, sues the teacher, they're not held, the district's not held responsible. So the teachers are supposed to, if they use it, they have to use it as it's directed.
Okay.
So that's, anyway. So it's right within the first few pages, it kind of goes through what the expectations are that this curriculum is supposed to do. And it's supposed to be available to homeschool families too that want to use it. The homeschool families that I've had look at it, that are some former teachers, they don't want to have anything to do with it. They looked at it, but that's nothing we want to use. But I do know Pat Huff, he's going to talk to me tomorrow. Ginger was out of town. Mark Gollaby's at a cherry tree meeting. Our friends from Klein are all running for office. They're speaking at the cherry tree meeting tonight. And I haven't heard, there's a couple other people that we invited. So I may narrow our list just because I just want people there that are ready to say something and share. So anyway, I'm glad y'all got to meet Meg. Meg is from HISD, so she's living a different kind of life. They really are not happy with the superintendent and the constant changes going on in Houston ISD. She was a principal in Vermont and stuff, so she has some education background. So anyway, I told that's about all I have, and I appreciate y'all's time. And if y'all have anything that comes up between the next couple weeks before we get together with him, let me know. I'll try to send out another reminder about the event. And even if you come out and just tell Will hi and listen to what he has to say, because I think, like I said, they get a lot of information. So I'm curious on what things have gotten improved and changed since the last time we've gotten to hear more about this. If you have any questions or need any one-on-one, feel free to call, and it always helps me to look and find some new stuff too. So we'll just do the best. We're just regular people, guys. We're not the superintendent, so we're his constituents, and we'll see how this works. So thank y'all. All right.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Mary Ann.
Thank you.
All
I
right.
may be calling you. Did you record this?
I did.
Okay, maybe I could get the recording.
Yeah, I'll send it to everybody.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
I
you.
appreciate that.
All right.
Thanks.
All right.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.